Who were Mircea Eliade and Carl Jung? Were their ideas related? In a nutshell, Mircea Eliade, historian of religion, and he wrote a book called The Sacred and the Profane. There are a lot of ideas in this book. It explains a lot about the origins of religion. I highly recommend this book. I have read this book on this channel, and you could find it pretty easily. As for Carl Jung and his ideas, specifically today, the collective unconscious, the contents of the unconscious, and individuation. This video is comparing Eliade and Jung on sacred space, Eliade's concept of the sacred and its relationship to space, the hierophany, which is manifestation of the sacred in the world, and how sacred spaces connect humans to the divine. Carl Jung, the archetypal space of the unconscious, Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, and its role in shaping our experiences, archetypes and the symbolic language of the unconscious, and how sacred spaces can be seen as reflections of the unconscious mind. Sacred space, a universal phenomenon, including 3 sacred mountains: Mount Girnar in India, Mount Olympus in Greece, and Mount Tai or Tai Shan in China. But I'll talk about those in a little bit. Mircea Eliade and Carl Jung both grappled with the human experience of the sacred, but they approached it from different angles. Eliade as a historian of religion and Jung as a psychologist. Their ideas overlap but diverge in focus and emphasis. Eliade saw sacred space as a fundamental category of human experience, a break from the homogeneous, profane world. In his book, The Sacred and the Profane, he argues that sacred space emerges when the divine, the holy other, manifests itself, what he calls a hierophany. This could be a tree, a mountain, or a temple where the eternal breaks into the temporal. For Eliade, sacred space is cosmological. It's like an axis mundi, a center that connects heaven, earth, and the underworld, giving humans a fixed point to orient their existence. Think of a medieval cathedral or a tribal ritual site. It's not just a place, but a recreation of the world's order, separating it from the chaotic profane. Jung, on the other hand, internalized the sacred. He didn't focus on physical spaces as much as the psyche's role in creating them. For Jung, sacred space is tied to the archetypes of the collective unconscious, universal symbols like the mandala, which he saw as representations of wholeness and the self with a capital S. A sacred space, in Jung's view, might be a dream image or a ritual circle that reflects an inner transformation, where Eliade sees a stone altar as sacred because of a divine encounter. Jung might see it as sacred because it resonates with the archetype of the center, stirring the unconscious. Their key difference lies in perspective. Eliade's sacred space is external, a historical and cultural reality rooted in religious traditions, while Jung's is psychological, a projection of inner processes onto the world. Yet they converge on the idea that sacred space transcends ordinary experience. Eliade through cosmology and Jung through symbolism. What is sacred space? It's a place set apart, imbued with meaning that lifts it beyond the mundane. It's universal because every culture across time has carved out such spaces to connect with something greater, whether divine, ancestral, or cosmic. Eliade would say it's where the sacred erupts into the profane, creating a threshold. Jung might argue it's where the psyche meets the infinite. Universally, sacred spaces share traits. They are often marked a boundary, a shrine. They evoke awe or reverence, and they serve as anchors for identity and ritual. Stonehenge, Mecca, the Ganges River, these aren't just locations, but points of encounter with the transcendent. They're not static either. Their sanctity comes from human perception and practice, making them dynamic across history. Modern examples. Today, sacred space adapts to secular and diverse contexts. Natural sites, places like Yosemite or Uluru in Australia, retain a sacred aura even for non-religious visitors, echoing Eliade's hierophany in nature. Memorials. The 9/11 Memorial in New York functions as a sacred space, a modern axis mundi where collective memory and loss are ritualized. Personal spaces. Jung's influence shines here. People create altars in their homes with photos, candles, or mementos reflecting an inner sacredness. Digital spaces, virtual commodities like meditation apps or online vigils stretch the concept, blending Eliade's communal ritual with Jung's symbolic resonance. I want to leave you with 3 examples of sacred spaces, 3 sacred mountains. Mount Girnar in India, located in Gujarat. This mountain is a major pilgrimage site for Jains and Hindus, dotted with ancient temples in its rugged peaks. Jains revere it as a focal point of spiritual triumph and liberation. Mount Olympus in Greece. This is the highest peak in Greece. It was considered the abode of the 12 Olympian gods in ancient Greek mythology, a celestial council overseeing human fate. Pilgrims and poets alike saw it as a bridge to the divine, its misty heights evoking awe and a sense of cosmic order. Eliade would call this an axis mundi, linking the mortal and immortal realms. Jung would see its pantheon as archetypes of the collective unconscious. And finally, there's Mount Taishan in China. This is in Shandong province. This mountain has been a sacred site for over 3,000 years. It's where emperors have offered sacrifices to heaven and earth. The Taoists and Confucians view it as a conduit between the human and the divine, its stone steps worn by countless seekers of blessing. I hope you enjoyed examining these examples and how they align with Eliade and Jung's concepts, comparing and contrasting their perspectives. I think they're similar in that Eliade and Jung emphasize the significance of sacred space for human understanding. And they have differences because Eliade focuses on the external world, while Jung emphasizes the internal experience. How this is all applicable and the implication of this, it just helps understanding religious and spiritual practices, both in the lived world, seeing others and appreciating their experiences and what it does for them, and then perhaps internally for yourself, you can see why you do certain rituals or traditions, or perhaps you can start them again with new meaning. Additionally, the significance of sacred spaces in art, architecture, and literature. Understanding of this makes traveling better. And then, of course, all of this brings potential for more sacred space in contemporary life. Okay, I hope that you've enjoyed. Check out other videos on the channel. Thank you so much for watching.